Hello everybody, chess tactics here. I'm gonna show you a nice game that I played today. It's against Raichampion from Spain. And yeah, let's start the review. I'm playing with the black pieces and start the review. So my opponent played pawn to d4. I responded with pawn to d5, e3, knight c6, bishop d3. It's an inaccuracy. So g6. Because of bishop d3 I couldn't play bishop to f5, so I played g6 to support that. c3, it's another inaccuracy. Bishop to h6, it's an inaccuracy. Okay, f6, this is a miss. Fine, inaccuracy. Alright, here I castled, my opponent also castled, and I played knight to f7, trying to push this pawn eventually. My opponent plays queen to c2, and I push the pawn, and here my threat is actually pawn advance. Of course, if you count the number of attackers and defenders, 1, 2, 3 attackers, and we have 1, 2, 3 defenders, so it works. Actually 4, because this bishop also counts. Now I pushed in the center. F takes e5, f takes e5. Now of course my threat is pawn to e4, forking the knight and the bishop. So he takes back. I take knight, f captures e5. I'm also opening up this, so in case he attacks I can take the rook. Now he played knight takes e5. It's an inaccuracy. So now you can see it's actually minus 1.69, which means I have a very big advantage. So rook captures f1, check. Knight captures f1, knight captures e5. Now if you see, this knight is a super knight. Okay, it's right in the center. Okay, there are no pawns to attack it on this file. And yeah, this knight is just amazing. It's protected by the bishop. And black has the positional advantage. So if you look at the piece activity, black has a lot of potential. Of course this knight is super. This bishop is on a good diagonal. I can develop this bishop very fast, bishop here, or even offering a trade maybe, and then my queen and rook can get into the game. Meanwhile, white's position is less satisfactory than white's. So you can see, especially this bishop is stuck, and this knight is also on a bad square. It will take some moves to develop it further. Yeah, and you can also see my pawns are limiting the mobility of his knight. So for example, if the knight moves here, he can't go forward after that. So yeah, the game goes on. He retreats his bishop. He doesn't want it captured. Bishop to f5, development with tempo, attacking the queen. He moves the queen. He's attacking my pawn, so I just played b6. This plays into my plan to eventually push c5, gain more space on the queen side. Now knight to g3. As I've said, the pawns limit the knight's mobility, but he's attacking my bishop, and this bishop is actually a very good piece, so I don't want it to be traded, so I move it back. Now I'm lining up the bishop and the queen, but the bishop is unprotected, so I can't do any discovered attacks yet. Bishop to d2. He develops his dark squared bishop, but as I said before, because of these two pawns, the bishop is very bad at the moment, and I don't want it to be developed. So yeah, I push pawn to c5, gaining more space on the queen side. And now I have some ideas, maybe push, kick his queen out, get more space. I don't want to push pawn to d4 because it will give him a chance to activate his bishop. So okay, he plays rook to f1, activating his rook on the open file. Queen to d7. I just wanted to allow my rook to control this file. The queen shouldn't get in the way. And now he plays bishop to b5, which is of course attacking my queen. So now I was thinking about potential squares to move the queen to. I could have played queen to e7, I could have played queen to c7, but I wanted to protect both the bishop and the pawn in case there were some discoveries or something. So I played the best move for the queen, according to me, which was queen to d6. Of course, the queen is in a very good position, defends the bishop, knight, defends all of these pawns. And now e4, he plays e4. Now if I took the pawn on e4, he could take with the knight, his knight would become active. It would attack my queen, I would have to move the queen, and that would just be bad. I didn't want to give him any activity, so instead of that I pushed pawn to d4. So this is a discovered attack on the queen, and at the same time I'm also gaining more space. I also have plans to maybe push further to d3, just cramp his position a little bit. And if you see, I'm also ahead on time, so that is good. Now he plays queen to c2, and according to Stockfish, black is winning heavily with minus 3.25. So I go ahead with my plan. I push pawn to d3. This attacks the queen, gains more space, and it's also cramping his position. Like, for example, his knight can't move back to maybe remaneuver somewhere else. And also it is important to count the number of attackers and defenders. Number of attackers is 2, the queen and the bishop, and number of defenders is also 2, the queen and the knight. So this is perfectly safe. And this also prepares for a bishop trap, as you'll see soon. So he moves his queen to d1, and I see a bishop trap. Because of my advanced pawns, they control a lot of squares, and this light squared bishop, if you see, at first this light squared bishop had this diagonal to retreat by, but since I pushed the pawn, it can't retreat anymore. So I can see the trap, which is pawn to a6, attacks the bishop. Bishop moves to a4. Of course, if the bishop went here, I could have just taken the bishop with the bishop or the knight. So now bishop moves to a4. I advance further with b5, and of course the bishop can't move to c2 because of this pawn. So the bishop can only move here, and now of course I trap it completely with pawn to c4, and it was in this position that my opponent resigned. So yeah, this game really shows you the importance of piece activity. If you see, especially uh, 1 second. Yes, so before my big center push, I had everything prepared. My pieces were in the right positions. Um, with queen to c2, I think he was planning some sort of sacrifice in the near future. But I completed my preparations. I saw that his bishop on c1 was very underdeveloped, and so I just pushed in the center. Captures, 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 captures. Knight captures. I traded off the rooks. Knight captures. And now you can see this knight, compared to all of his pieces, this knight is vastly superior. This bishop is basically dead. This knight is also basically dead. And you can see, as I've said before, these pawns really control the mobility of his knight. So if the knight moves here, he can't move anywhere. If the knight moves here, he can't move anywhere forward. So the pawns were also very crucial. And yeah, the e4 knight is just, e4 knight, sorry, e5 knight is just a monster. The bishop on g7 is also quite good. It's currently defending my knight, and this bishop also has good potential. It has this whole diagonal to develop. So he moved his bishop to e2. Of course, I didn't want to trade the knight for the bishop. This gave me the opportunity to develop with the tempo, and yeah. So now we got this bishop pair, um, we got this central knight. Compared to that, white's pieces are just garbage. So yes, I got more space on the queen side. And yeah, there's nothing more to be said. Piece activity is very important, and also the pawns are very important. Throughout this game, you can see white had almost no control. Maybe in like this position, white had some initiative perhaps, but I just have more space. I just have better pieces, and there's nothing to be done. And yeah, c4, the bishop is trapped. My opponent resigned. So yeah, that's it. GG's, Raichampion. Well played. And yeah, see you.